The United States military is deter and then defeat. The only thing more expensive than fighting a war is losing one. We dominated the battlefield for decades because of the fact that the resources we had and the technology gap that we put between ourselves and our adversaries. That doesn't exist today. It doesn't. I mean, you can procure commercial off-the-shelf equipment globally that we were the only ones that had in our inventory just 10 years ago, right? The resource and capabilities of our near-peer adversaries is consistent and almost getting close to ours, right? I mean, and what they're spending on it has increased exponentially over the last decade, right? And that's the first challenge, is near-peer capabilities. Second challenge is the resources, right? So we are not without a limit of money in this nation. I used to remind soldiers all the time, part of our job is to help preserve the great wealth this nation has been plentiful of, which provides us with the great equipment that we have, right? And I think we have to understand a couple things. We gotta maintain the equipment we have, right? We have to ask for what we need, not what we want. We saw some of this during Iraq and Afghanistan, right? A lot of ACOGs laying around that nobody looked their eyes through, right? And then we have to build the right equipment and specify the right requirements. And there's challenges with all of those, right? From the individual level feedback all the way to the strategic level, right? And then we have to balance that huge cost with the needs of this nation. And that's what most service members, soldiers, don't think about. And when you get into the echelons of leadership that I was fortunate to be able to sit in, then you start to realize the challenges when you go up there and go, hey, I need this. Why can't you just give me the money? You know, what's up, man? Just open the checkbook and write me the check. But then you sit in there and realize that the national budget, it's hard, right? It's not an easy thing to do. So what do we need? And there's a lot of input that goes into that, right? What are our adversaries' capabilities? What are the resources we have? How do we correctly spend those resources and allocate them across not just the Army, but all the services, right? And then what's in the future? So that's the research and development, which takes a lot of money, right? So there's been, and I don't even use the word dozens because I am uninformed on it, but there's probably millions of projects that we started. And you have to do this. You have to put money into this research and development and find out if you can create this technology, this dream of the next great weapon system or the next great platform to work off of, and it fails, right? Yeah. It fails. So all those things are very, very uniquely interrelated and make it so difficult to build modernization, as you said. And we've been saying it for how long? And we're still using the platforms that were designed after Vietnam. The Abrams, the Bradley, the Black Hawk, the Apache, well, Cobra first and then Apache, right? We're still using them. Now, they're not the same. You know, we put a lot of money and effort, but we do have to get to the next generation of equipment to equip. And the leadership struggles with all those things and more, right, that I just talked about, but they're making progress. They are.
So there's two points here that you made up that I think are important to kind of address in a little bit more detail. So you talked about, essentially what you're talking about is the procurement process. And we have a very bureaucratic and lengthy procurement process. So how do you rapidly innovate when you have this process that says, like, hey, it's going to take 5 years, 10 years to field the new Black Hawk?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not the acquisition expert. I dealt with a little bit of it, sat in the meetings, and smarter people, way smarter than me. I call them the wicked smart people. We still haven't figured it out, right? And it's the next administration just said the other day, we're gonna get after this, and we've been saying that. And I'm not saying they won't or anybody in the past has failed. That's not what I'm here. I'm not an indicter. It's difficult. It's hard. But I can tell you the outcome if we don't. I do know this because I have enough experience. We got to change. We got to fix this. We have technology today, like you said, under the current process that won't get into our soldiers' hands for 5 years. But guess what? It's obsolete. Now, we've done much better. We have done much better. On one of the things, unfortunately, that war brings us is changes in those policies, or it gives us exceptions to those to do rapid fielding equipment initiative. The equipment we have right now, which is phenomenal. You know, when I grew up in the Army, I had 2 canteen cups, 2 magazines made out of canvas, and an M16 rifle with no sights, nothing, right? And when I turned in all the TA-50 I got from all my deployments, I had 12 duffel bags full of stuff from Rapid Fielding Initiative. Soldiers are well equipped, but are they equipped for the next fight? And where's that fight going to be, right? And it's challenging, and it's expensive, and it's increasing in cost. And these are all things that we have to factor into it. But I don't know how to get it better, and I'm not going to be the one to sit here and act like I know the answer, because I don't. Because, like I said, smarter people than me have tried to figure it out. But I know the consequence if we don't. And it's going to be expensive. And a great man I worked for, General Mark Milley, had an awesome quote that I love. And he used to use it on the Hill all the time. Because this is an expensive endeavor. A very expensive endeavor. And he used to say, the only thing more expensive than fighting a war is losing one. Yeah. So it's going to cost. It's going to come at great cost. But if we don't do it, will be at greater cost if we lose the next war.
Yeah. So I've been fortunate to sit down with General Joseph Votel, former SOCOM commander and CENTCOM commander, and JSOC, and you name it, he probably commanded it at some point.
Yeah.
And also with the incoming National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. And both of them talked at length about China. I think we feared Russia in a lot of ways, and the Ukraine exposed Russia's at least their conventional military capability has been exposed to a significant degree, and we know a lot more about Russia there. But we talk about China.
Yep.
China's investment in things like hypersonic technology for missiles, reports of Chinese investment in Gen 6 and 7 fighter jets,
Yeah.
Their 4-to-1 advantage in deep water ports, and their ability to produce an aircraft carrier in like 5 years, and it takes us 12 years to produce an aircraft carrier. Are we behind China in innovation and technology? And if we are, how do we close the gap?
Yeah. Now I'm not privy to the information I had in the past, and many of that would be classified. I couldn't,
Sure.
I can't talk in that. But yeah, I worry about it. I listen to our elected leaders and our leaders in the Pentagon now, and they have concerns in certain areas. Yeah. Do I think that they are an adversary of great concern? Oh yeah. Not just militarily. Economically, geopolitically, I mean, you name it. That's their desire to do what we've done for the last, decade. I do know this: if we don't invest in modernization, if we don't start moving that ball forward, we will continue to fall behind. We will. I mean, we will. It's just a fact. I mean, it's not something that is that's a secret. China's been very public about what they're trying to do. It's not like there's a closed book and we're trying to figure out and look inside what they're trying to write down in that book. No, they've been very clear. They've been very clear on what their objectives are, right? And that's the great cost of defense of this great nation. We either match or exceed their capabilities or fall behind. I mean, it's that simple. It's not rocket scientists in the aspects of what you have to do to deter, because that's our first mission. Our first mission as the United States military is deter, and then defeat, right? And deterrence only works if you're the bigger guy on the block, right? If you have the capabilities and the known capabilities to give them the possibility of never wanting to fight America. Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure, and I'm speaking hypothetically because I don't have the information these leaders have today, and I'm not privy to it. But I'm sure there are technologies that we may be falling behind. But I also know that we got to invest in the future. And if we don't, we'll continue to fall behind.
Is it likely, though? I mean, it is a peer-to-peer, let's call it what it is. Is a peer-to-peer confrontation with China actually likely? Because you have camps who are saying, look, we're going down that road.
That's right.
And then you say, all right, well, what's the impetus? Like, what's the match that lights the book? And then I think people sometimes struggle to then kind of define that, right? Because I think we're not dealing with an irrational other side. The enemy gets a vote.
That's
know
right.
that the enemy gets
Yeah.
a vote, whether you're a lone terrorist running down the road or you're Xi Jinping.
Yeah.
You know, you get a vote and you have an input. And so they're not irrational to say, like, well, you know, there's no repercussions of going to war with America because we're just going to kick their ass. Like, they're having the conversation of, like, you know, this is our biggest trade partner. This upsets the global stage. You know, it's not like a conversation with Iran. You know, like, I mean, President Trump in the first term assassinated a leader of Iran and nothing happened.
Yeah. So that's a great question. I think to answer that question, you have to find what war is. Most people look at war as armed conflict between two entities. War is a conflict of wills. Right? So we waged war against Russia for decades and never fired a shot on them. Right? That's what China's doing now. Right? So, and not having the military strength to deter their actions allows them to do what they want to do. Right? We have deterred enemies for decades and never fought them because they knew the capabilities of the U.S. military and the capabilities of, if we did act, what their consequence would be. If we allow China to continue to do what they're doing and we don't meet or exceed their capabilities, they will know that they can continue to do it without friction. Right? That, I think, is more likely than having an armed conflict against China or Russia, right? Or worse, both, right? I read a great story the other day. Ukraine is not fighting Russia. They're fighting China and Iran and Russia, right? They're fighting 3 countries right now.
And a couple of North Koreans running around there.
And the world's watching about what's going to happen about this and what we're going to do, right? And I do believe there's threats in places like Taiwan as a result of us not having competing capabilities to deter war, right? So is armed conflict? I'll get back to the question and answer it. Likely in the very near future with China? Most likely not, in my opinion, right? I'm not the big analyzer of the next fights, but in my opinion, no. Is war with them? Yeah. In a different sense, though. Well, I think it's ongoing now, to be honest with you. And it depends how you want to define the word war.
Yeah, I would argue that as you've defined war here, we would absolutely be at war with them, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, of course, for sure. Yeah, and they're very upfront about it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they're not holding it back.